Alright, here's what we know for sure. Helldivers is bleeding players. But is it because of the First Descendant? Well, yes and no. Helldivers has been struggling with some serious issues, mainly thanks to Sony and Arrowhead. Forbes reports that, after initial success, Helldivers 2 has lost 90% of its players with no sign of recovery. Ouch. That's a huge hit, even if it's normal for games to see a drop after their initial peak. For a live service game, losing so many players so quickly is a big red flag. Now, a quick side note. Sony should definitely take a closer look at the PC market. The PC community has been a massive part of Helldivers 2's success in the US. In fact, Helldivers 2 is now the 7th highest grossing Sony-published game in history, thanks largely to PC players. Without them, it wouldn't even crack the top 20. The PC community's backlash against the PSN surprise from Sony didn't help either. Sony and Arrowhead have made the game harder to play, with issues around woke stuff in games, problems with tokens, and gun mechanics. Leaked updates about the aliens are floating around, but nothing concrete has been released, pushing more players away. This game had the potential to be a long-term hit, but it's just not living up to it. Enter The First Descendant, a free game that's turning heads with its awesome graphics and characters. Let's be real. Sexy, feminine women and masculine guys are a big draw. The gameplay is solid, and people are getting hooked. Of course, The First Descendant isn't without its criticisms. Insider Gaming points out that one of the characters, Bunny, has a more revealing outfit than anything we've seen in Stellar Blade. Recently, eagle-eyed users identified a character model variant in the game that's even more risque than Stellar Blade's Eve. Ultimate Bunny in The First Descendant has a lore-driven, incredibly skimpy outfit, leaving almost nothing to the imagination. The article pokes fun at the game, but let's not forget, this is a South Korean creation, and cultural differences play a big role here. IGN has also weighed in. They praise the game's polished gameplay, but slam its dialogue and story. IGN says, "Unfortunately, so much of it is being kept locked behind sections, where you complete a series of really dull errands. These sections account for a pretty big chunk of what you do during the main story too, seemingly to pad out the adventure so you don't burn through the more interesting activities too quickly." IGN's verdict? The First Descendant nails its gameplay and progression, but the story and characters leave much to be desired. But hey, looter-shooter fans aren't in it for the story anyway. The constant loot drops and satisfying combat make it hard to put down, even with the tedious missions. The performances, on top of the absurdity, rarely come close to matching the lips of the characters speaking. That's fine if you enjoy watching anime dubs, but I find it pretty distracting. Similarly, the weapons, equipment, and upgrades you earn while shotgunning your way through the levels are awesome. Loot drops constantly. Most weapons feel distinct and satisfying to play with, and watching the numbers go up as you modify and upgrade every new toy in your arsenal makes The First Descendant hard to put down until it forces you into about 15 separate menus to juggle dozens of materials and so many different systems that you might want to keep your inhaler at the ready." End quote. So it seems, at least from this preview by IGN, that the game nails its actual gameplay and offers a lot of progression for players to chase, which is what you want from these live service games. But considering the last thing looter-shooter players play for is story, it's not very surprising that not much care was put into this. It's refreshing to see a game like The First Descendant embrace attractive character models again. Hopefully, this trend continues, and we see a return to some level of normalcy in the industry. Most of the successful games this year, like Elden Ring's DLC and Stellar Blade, have avoided identity politics, and The First Descendant seems to be following suit. It's no wonder it's one of Steam's top 10 most wishlisted games right now, with more than twice as many wishlists as Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2. And remember, it's free to play. So, is The First Descendant stealing players from Helldivers? Absolutely. Helldivers is struggling with a lack of good updates and player interest, while The First Descendant is offering something new and exciting. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and hit that like button. Stay tuned for more gaming news and updates.
난이도가 증가하지만 더 좋은 보상을 얻을 확률도 높아져서 인 5개의 필드가 추가되며 총 8개의 지역에서 메인 스토리를 경험하게 됩니다. 메인 스토리를 클리어하면 필드의 어려움 난이도가 해금되며 파밍의 무대로 사용할 수 있습니다.